Hello and welcome to Business Today Television. I am Siddharth Zarabi and you're watching Easynomics. On the subject today is not macro or microeconomics, but the business and the unit economics of India's largest passion and one of the biggest sports globally, which is cricket. EdTech major Byju is reportedly walking back to the pavilion in its innings with the BCCI. The financially stressed company is said to be seeking to exit what was a jersey sponsorship deal for the Indian cricket team. A final decision, I must tell you, is likely to be made on the 21st of this month. And joining me more on this is Krishna Gopalan, the executive editor at Business Today, and Vikrant Gupta, managing editor, Sports Tak and Sports Aaj Tak. Welcome to Business Today Television. Krishna, I want to come to you with this bit of news, and it obviously emanates from the sequential sort of trouble that Byju is having on the financial side. What's your own sense of what really has happened and how significant is this in terms of the financials and BCCI sponsorship deals?
So that there are really 2 points here. One, obviously, in terms of finances, Byju is going through a very hard time. The FY22 results have been in the making for a while, and the company has kind of gone back and forth on it, which is one part of the story. But more importantly, I think it's a clear indication that A&P expenditure, advertising and promotion, is going to be something they're going to have a serious relook at. And given the fact that they had a 20x hike in their losses for the last fiscal, this decision in some sense was inevitable. One must go back in time to understand the whole story. Oppo was the original sponsor. They signed the deal for 5 years. Byju stepped in because Oppo was getting out. Byju picked it up for the remainder of the period, paying the same amount, and they actually managed to renew the deal again. So this, what we see today, to my mind, is a direct consequence of the fact that the company is going through stress financially. The valuation part of the story is under stress, and obviously investors are turning on the heat.
Krishna, stay with us and I'll come back to you to discuss more about Byju, because remember, viewers, the reason we are discussing this company is not just the jersey sponsorship deal, but it's Byju's status as one of India's most storied unicorns. Vikrant, I'm coming to you. While the business of the deal is on one side, what does this news tell you in terms of BCCI's own troubles with jersey sponsorship? First we had a mobile phone company, now an education tech company. If this were to pan out, who do you guess will be the next sponsor of the jersey?
Siddharth, hi. I think it is about Byju more than cricket or the BCCI, because a similar thing happened with the IPL sponsor also 2 years ago when Oppo pulled out. In fact, they said that they wanted a suspension of 1 year, and the BCCI in the interim went to another sponsor who paid them money. And once Oppo opted out of the IPL, they got more money than the original Oppo deal from Tata's. The TV rights, it was 16,500 crore rupees for the 5-year term for the IPL. And the last year when they renegotiated, it went for 50,000 crore rupees. Which means that even though Byju will be out, there would be a new player in the market. And for all you know, the BCCI could actually get more from the new sponsor than what they were getting from Byju. But I think it's about Byju. People are surprised now as to if the financials of that company weren't good enough. Why did they invest so much in cricket? In cricket, they've been investing for years now. So it is understandable that the mileage they wanted to get, they must have from cricket. But they also signed up Lionel Messi, paid him a hefty amount just recently before the FIFA World Cup. And that was something the investors must have also talked about, because if you go to invest in football, in Messi, and pay him much more than you would have paid the BCCI, and if the company is bleeding, I mean, that doesn't make sense.
That's a very good point, Vikrant. I just want to follow up that point on with your own views on the value of cricket sponsorships in India. You've tracked this for years and you've seen, like you very correctly pointed out, that valuations have kept going up. Does it ever concern you with regard to BCCI's own approach towards sponsorship for them? Is it just the money that matters, or also the brand and what it represents?
When the Oppo thing was happening, obviously it was Oppo who approached the BCCI for a 1 year suspension, and the BCCI let them go because that was also a period when the Indo-Chinese relations were really, really bad. And if you remember, Siddharth, there was this chorus in India where people said, "Oh, let us not buy Chinese products." And Oppo, of course, was into the phone market, and they thought India was a huge market. But if the sentiment was against China and against Oppo, it made no sense. The BCCI would definitely want money. They would also want a big brand, so as to say, notionally, because that helps. And again, anybody who can afford the BCCI jersey or the Indian team's jersey would be a big sponsor, would be a big brand. What has been happening recently is when they signed up with Tata's as the IPL sponsor, they stressed on the fact that Tata's was an Indian company, not Oppo. Oppo was a Chinese company and Tata's was an Indian company. So they may actually see amongst the ones who bid for the jersey. I don't think it will be a problem for the BCCI because in terms of the cricketing money, the jersey money is peanuts now. Like I said, if they get 10,000 crore rupees a year just from the IPL rights and the Indian TV rights, the Indian domestic and the India international cricket rights are also up for grabs, it means that the Indian jersey is not the biggest pie for them. It is just one slice. And as I see, maybe the money will go up. Maybe the ratio will go up.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Krishna, come in on that because what Vikrant has done is provided us the cricketing perspective. You have followed the business of cricket and entertainment very, very closely. What's your sense? Which way would the toss go with a new sponsor for the Indian jersey?
Very clear about this. Getting a new sponsor, to my mind, is almost going to be a walk in the park. I mean, look at the trend. They had handset manufacturers, it's EdTech. So one really has to look for the new unicorn on the block. Vikrant is absolutely right when he speaks of the China sentiment. But if you remove that particular part of the business, you're still spoiled for choice. And for someone to cut a check, let's say for, if I remember right, Oppo paid about, I think, close to 2,000 crores the first time around. And if you look at, it was actually a little over 1,000 crores, I'm sorry. And if you compare that to how much they might have to pay today, it would translate to perhaps about 150 to $200 million at best. But the visibility that comes by virtue of having your name on the jersey in a high-reach business like cricket makes for the most compatible marriage. So I would put my money on one of the unicorns stepping in to replace Byju because they're flush with funds, and quite honestly, they really don't know what to do with the money.
Krishna, are you telling our viewers that cricket will be recession-proof, slowdown-proof, as it has been in the past?
Let's put it this way: when the company is spoiled for funds, it's hard for them to keep out of it. Let's kind of look at it a little differently. If you look at the large FMCG majors, the sense of accountability they might have to the stakeholders is far greater. Whereas for the guys in the edtech business, or any kind of startup to that extent, they work on the principle of subscribers and they understand the only language that revolves around eyeballs. And cricket to that extent makes for the most perfect combination.
Vikrant, I am coming to you with the same question, really, that cricket is said to be above everything else in the country. A slowdown, difficulties for corporates, cricket continues without pause, and we have a very busy season for our team. Do you think the slowdown and overall depressed sentiments, consumer sentiments, may impact overall sponsorship values in the year coming?
So that the biggest challenge for cricket or any sport in the world was during COVID in the year 2020. March till about October, you had virtually no sports. And that was when we started to fear about cricket. And again, once the IPL began post-COVID, the first IPL, I still remember a very big and a very popular reality show on Indian television. And I was speaking to them and they said the day we were going on the floor, the day the first episode was to go on air, we did not have a single sponsor. It was clashing with yet another reality show who also did not have too many sponsors. I said, why? They said, because the IPL is on. And that IPL, which happened this is the first time the IPL happened during the festival season of, I think it was September, October, and November. So cricket took away everything. And if cricket could survive, or I would say if it could thrive even during COVID, I still feel that the numbers will grow. Again, is that a good ROI? I don't know. Because when Star bought the IPL for 16,500 crore rupees for 5 years, I believe they did not make money. Yet they bid again. And they won the TV bid this year. And the combined bid for the IPL, like I said, was thrice the amount of what it happened 5 years ago, which means that people are actually putting their money on cricket. They also know that the next year in 2023, there's a World Cup happening in India. Now, that is an ICC event. And during the ICC event, there would also be the ICC sponsors on the jersey. The Indian sponsor would also be there, but they would also be the ICC sponsors. But they also realize the fact that in the World Cup year, and when the World Cup is going to happen in India, there will be that buzz around the year, around the cricket, which could be what they want. Now, again, what kind of brand are we looking at? Are we looking at unicorns? There could be newer players in the market. I mean, there are a few surrogate betting apps which have not been able to get that foothold in India, but they've been sponsoring leagues around the world. And there are a few NFTs as well, cricket NFTs as well, who would definitely want to bid. But again, they will also have to check with the provisions of the Indian government. Is crypto allowed? Are the NFTs allowed? If they are, then I would expect at least thrice the amount of what Byju's was paying.
Okay, thrice the amount. Krishna, as we wind down this conversation, this point about return on investment and the example that Vikrant gave of Star, which is absolutely noteworthy, do you think on the corporate side, the approach in terms of ROI remains the same, or is it just big egos, founders' egos, business egos, the desire to be seen with India's biggest sporting event that drives management and founders and owners to put in such high amounts of money?
I think listed companies will be a lot more judicious when it comes to cutting the big checks. The Tata IPL is a good example where they picked up one part of it, but after tremendous deliberation, but cut away from the IPL. If you look at team sponsorship and the other numbers, which actually hit what one might imagine are fairly ridiculous amounts, logic, quite honestly, doesn't really come in here. So, like I said, the moment you're flush with funds, you have to figure out a way to deploy the money. And all these companies have huge A&P budgets. It makes perfect sense for them to do it. Just cut to, let's say, a company like Hindustan Lever, or let's say Marico. These are huge businesses in the FMCG space, but they never get anywhere close to the IPL, barring taking the occasional advertising slots. Because for them, the ROA in cricket clearly doesn't come in line with the kind of money they spend. I mean, if you look at the IPL, for example, if you're speaking of 15 to 20 lakhs for a 10-second spot, it's impossible for them to justify the ROI to the team internally, forget the shareholders. But whereas for the unicorns, it really doesn't matter because the moment your logo is splashed all over the stadium, it gives you a certain high. So I guess your point is right to an extent where egos do come into play.
But what about the funding winter, Krishna, very quickly?
Well, I think you have to look at it this way. If you have to look at the whole amount, if that's converted to dollars, it doesn't really work out to so much. It's a broadcaster who's putting in the kind of money.
Okay.
Quite honestly, if you look at if you look at somebody like a Byju, as I did mention earlier, you're speaking of 1,000 crores for 5 years, and even if you decide to hike that to 3,000 crores, you're still speaking of what? Less than $500 million, and that's spread over 5 years. How much does it really add up to in the context of how much a broadcaster has paid?
Absolutely, and valuations are obviously related to perceptions. Vikrant, the final word on the show to you, and this is not on cricket, this is on BT Golf. I don't know if you can see, there's a new logo on my laptop, viewers. This is the Business Today Golf Tournament Series. It's coming back, obviously after a COVID hiatus, and the first one tees off in Manesar this Sunday. Vikrant, as you go, one word about golf as a sport. No, the numbers don't at all come close to cricket, but how significant do you see golf as a premium play in India?
Well, it is huge. Siddharth, 20 years ago, or about 25 years ago, you had big professionals playing golf in India, only the professionals. Then you had the corporates. And now, even caddies are playing golf, which means that it is now becoming a popular sport. Still for the classes, not so much for the masses. And that is why the business today, the PT golf this Sunday, I would want to definitely attend. I can't play because I do play cricket, and I know while it does sound similar, it is very, very different from playing cricket. But I believe there are a few world champions coming for the event. Suresh Raina is coming for the event. Madan Lal is coming for the event. We've invited Kapil Dev also for the event, and if he's free, he might just drop in for a round or two. So that's going to be huge. Plus, I think the weather has been warm comparatively, so it won't be very cold. It should be bright, it should be sunny, and Manesar is not very far from where I live in Gurgaon.
Absolutely, and we'll have to watch what kind of game of golf the famous cricketers who are coming to the BT Golf Tournament play. Vikrant Gupta and Krishna Gopalan, thank you very much for your time with us on the show today. And if you've been, thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with more. Stay tuned in to Business Today Television. Goodbye.
Huge relief coming in there for consumers with the wholesale inflation falling to a 21-month low. 2 days after consumer inflation number hit an 11-month low.